everyone, and welcome to a new video. So today's video is going to be a mixture between a costume spotlight and an announcement, since I really wanted to show you this Renaissance dress that I completed last year, and also show you the pattern for it, which has recently been released by McCall's. So I thought it'd be really fun to talk you through the inspiration and the design process and some of the decisions I made when drafting this, and also show you some of the details of the actual sample garment. So if you missed my last video announcing my partnership with McCall's, I will link it up above. Once again, I just want to say how grateful I am to be working with them and how wonderful they've been. They've kept the patterns really true to my original designs and given me so much freedom when it comes to actually designing these pieces. I'm just incredibly grateful to be working or designing for them, and for all of the people who have touched this and worked on this and made this a reality, because I never ever could have done this on my own, and I really am just so grateful for the opportunity and for all the people who work on this. So with the sappy stuff out of the way, let's talk about the pattern itself. And it is number M7763. This comes in two sizes. The first one goes from 6 to 14, and then the second one goes from 14 to 22. These are sold from McCall's websites and anywhere else that McCall's patterns are sold. If they carry the spring collection, then they should be carrying this specific pattern. So this dress is obviously inspired by Renaissance fashion in general, but to get more specific, it's inspired by pieces from the first half of the 16th century, around the 1530s. This is one of my favorite periods of fashion. I love the slight off-the-shoulder style, the wide necklines, the full sleeves, the amount of detail work that went into these dresses, and just the silhouette in general. I feel like it's a very flattering and easy to fit silhouette, but still offers you a lot of freedom in terms of sleeve styles and skirt lengths and colors and trims and fabrics and all of that fun stuff. So it's a period that I really enjoy, and it's one that I'm constantly revisiting, partially because it is so much fun to make dresses from this period, but also because it's quite nostalgic to me. Renaissance fashion is actually what got me into historical costuming in the first place. It all started with a few illustrations of Renaissance dresses, which I felt compelled to recreate, even though at the time I thought they were Regency court gowns, since I couldn't tell the difference and knew that little about historical fashion. But I did some research and I learned some more, and I eventually started watching the TV show The Borgias, which was the beginning of me wanting to pursue design and sewing as not only a hobby but a potential career choice. So that was incredibly influential on me, and whenever I look at Renaissance designs or make one, I'm just filled with the joy and awareness that that has helped bring me to where I am today. So when McCall's came to me and asked for design ideas, I instantly went to Renaissance fashion. I knew that was what I wanted to create, and I hope this is something you are interested in seeing and purchasing too. So I had a large pool of Renaissance inspired dresses to pick from. I decided to design something completely new that would hopefully appeal to more experienced costumers who want a more accurate dress, as well as people who just want something fun and pretty to wear to a Renaissance festival. So this was very much a mixture of designing with the knowledge I have now, as well as some of the concerns that I had when I was first starting out, and some of the things that I would have really liked to see implemented in Renaissance patterns that are already elsewhere available in the market. So on that note, let's go through the design of this dress and some of the decisions that I made when designing it. So as you can probably tell, this has a relatively deep neckline, it has full sleeves, and then it has little puffs that are visible through the undersleeves. It also has a very full skirt with an open front and a small train. Though there are many pieces included in this pattern, it makes two garments, the first of which is the dress, and the second of which is this underskirt. And I was very particular about these two pieces being separate, because these pieces being separated is the key to the dress having a lot of movement and to being so much fun to wear and twirl around in, and I just felt like this was very important. It also makes it more versatile because the underskirt effectively becomes a foundation that you can pair with other dresses. The underskirt also gives us a lot of volume, so you don't have to wear a petticoat with it. The bodice is fully boned, laces up, and has a structural layer, so you do not have to wear this dress with a corset or stays or bodies or anything like that. However, you will probably want to pair it with a chemise just for the sake of comfort, and a chemise pattern is unfortunately not included in this pack, but I will link a few alternative chemise patterns in the description box down below, and I am planning on making a video tutorial on how I made the one I'm wearing right now, because it's pretty simple to do. I had four main goals when designing this, and the first was that I wanted to make a dress that would be fun to wear. I also wanted to design a dress that you could get into on your own, since that isn't always the case with historical costumes. I wanted to design something that could be elaborate without being expensive to construct, and I also wanted to make something that could be easily altered for accuracy's sake. Part of the fun to wear factor for me was making a dress that had good mobility, and also separating the underskirt and the overdress so it's more versatile and more fun to wear since you can spin around in it, and the skirt just has lots of movement. To make the open front easier and to make this dress easier to get into, I've added the lacing to the front instead of the back, and though this isn't inaccurate for the 1500s, I know it's not to everyone's taste. However, this dress was drafted with a center back seam, so if you wanted to, you could open up that seam, close the front seam, and add the appropriate amounts of boning and eyelets to have it close in the back instead of the front. Also, for the sake of making this dress easy to get into, I added button and loop closures to the sleeves instead of ties. And this was an intentional choice because ties can be really difficult to do up on your own, and I wanted to make this dress for everyone, even the people who want to change into it in a Ren Fair bathroom without help. If you don't like how this looks and you prefer the more historically accurate way, and you know you will have a helper around when you are getting changed, you can definitely just ignore the instructions for the loops and add eyelets once the sleeves are assembled instead. Now on to my next note of making this in an affordable manner. So I knew when I started on this dress that I didn't want to use a lot of trims or decorations. As much as I enjoy looking at those and sewing them on and wearing those, they can get pretty expensive, and I know that isn't achievable for everyone. So instead of purchasing a wide jacquard trim to go around the neckline of the bodice and the hem of the skirt, I ended up using contrasting fabric, which is sewn on in the form of a facing. This isn't an accurate way to put a Renaissance dress together, but it creates a really even, smooth band around all of the edges of the dress. It also finishes all of the edges really nicely, so you don't have to worry about doing a hem. But the best part is that it allows you to introduce a contrasting material or sparkly material or something to make the dress look a little bit more interesting and elaborate without breaking the bank. If I wanted to trim this dress with ribbon instead of the facing, I would have had to purchase around 8 or 9 yards, and I probably would have paid somewhere between $50 and $70 for that trim to get it in this specific width. Whereas using the facing to add that contrast and that decoration only cost me $12 since I had to purchase an extra 1.5 yards of material. However, if you don't like how the visible facing looks, you could just sew this on backwards and turn it inward to nicely finish all the edges without it being visible. Now onto the historical accuracy concerns. So I already mentioned that you can replace the button closures with eyelets, as well as moving the front eyelet closure if that is your personal preference, but there's some other stuff I want to mention too. The arm sides are actually finished independently from the sleeves. It is not sewn as a traditional seam. Instead, the arm side is finished with bias binding and the sleeve is top stitched on further back. So if you'd prefer to have the more historically accurate tie-on sleeves, then you can completely do that without having to change the construction method of the bodice. The undersleeves also extend all the way to the shoulder, and then the puff sleeves are sewn on over top. They are not connected in any way, and they move independently from each other. So if you don't like the puffed sleeves and would like to have fitted sleeves all the way up, then you can definitely do that, once again without changing the design too dramatically. You can also make this without the undersleeves if you just like how the puff sleeves look. And as I said, if you don't like how the facing looks, then you could turn that inward and decorate the front with ribbons or trims of your choosing. And I think that's everything I have to say. I really hope this pattern will appeal to a wide variety of people, whether you want a pretty dress to wear for Halloween or to a Renaissance festival, or want a relatively accurate, historically themed gown. Regardless, I really hope you enjoy this pattern and seeing this dress in a little bit more detail. If you have any questions, I will do my best to answer them down below. And now let's get into the fun stuff.
The first layer of this costume is quite boring and simply consists of thick stockings since this was filmed on a cold day. Over top of those, I'm wearing the Kensington shoes in oxblood from American Duchess. These are a little more than 300 years off from the period this dress is based off of, but they were the closest I had and they matched really nicely. Then there's the chemise, also called a smock or shirt during this time. Mine is made from cotton gauze and was sewn mostly by hand. The body of this garment is very boxy, with wide shoulders. It has large sleeves with cuffs that were gathered down by hand to fit the wrists. Both the cuffs and collar are decorated with tiny hand-sewn ruffles. I think these are adorable and something I need to implement in more of my costumes. The cuffs and collars also close with hand-worked eyelets. The front of this chemise is slashed open, and the slash is faced with more cotton gauze to prevent fraying. The collar is lined with gauze as well, so no raw edges can escape. This garment should hit just above the knees, but I had limited material at the time I made this, so it is quite short. Next up is the underskirt, and I apologize for the wrinkles. Something to note about this piece is that it's made from 2 different fabrics. The visible front is a silk du peony, and the back portion that you don't see is a cheap polyester taffeta. These pieces were sewn together with French seams, and the top edge was gathered by hand. It's mounted to a waistband with over-the-shoulder straps that keep it positioned just above the natural waistline. Ribbon in the waistline covers the raw edges and makes it more durable. The garment closes in the back with 2 hooks. You can simply step into this, arrange the straps over the shoulder, and hook the closures into position. Super easy. Before getting into the dress, I put on the headpiece, which is not very authentic at all, but it looks nice. The veil is chiffon that was hemmed by hand and mounted on a piece of plastic boning. This is pinned into my hair prior to styling it. There's also a crescent made from scraps of coordinating fabric and stuffed with batting. This has a headband inside to hold its shape and slips easily onto the head. Now for the dress. The bodice has a very straight shape with boning in it to help form the body. I used about double the amount of boning channels that are actually shown in the pattern, and I'd suggest you do the same if you want more support and a cleaner silhouette. The bodice is lined with twill and cotton to help support the boning channels and the boning itself. The front is made from a striped silk shantung, and silk dupioni was used for the facing. Eyelets were hand sewn into the front, and denim was inserted between the lining and the base layers so these would be more durable. The undersleeves are trimmed with vintage jacquard ribbon and outlined with fake pearls. I used more fake pearls around the cuffs of the puffed sleeve as well. This brings out the darker tones in the fabric and adds a lovely bit of detail. I feel like details around the neckline are often added, but sometimes the sleeves can be neglected, so this costume is kind of the other way around. The arm side is quite deep in the back, and the sleeves sit almost off the shoulder to create that early 1500s silhouette, which is all the rage right now. Also, the back was bias cut, so I could get those stripes to line up. The skirt was seamed together with French seams, and here you can see the facing in a bit more detail. It provides a very clean, convenient finish around all of the edges of the skirt and bodice. This dress goes on like a robe, then the sleeves button close, and the bodice can be laced up. I'm spiral lacing it, as that was common up until the 1800s. The lacing is actually made from the dupioni, which was sewn into a tiny tube. This blends into the front of the bodice and makes the lacing less noticeable, but twine is probably more historically accurate. After tightening the front, I thread the lacing through the bottom eyelet several times to keep it secure. Then you can hide the remaining lacing under the waistline of the bodice and through the opening at the back of the underskirt. This is not glamorous at all, but my final step is pulling the chemise down from under the dress until it sits nicely at the neckline. This is easier to do if you actually make the chemise long enough. And that is it. Overall, this is an easy to get into and easy to wear historically inspired piece. I'm really happy with how this dress turned out. I think the color palette is really pretty and I love the shape of it. I hope you guys love it too. If you do, then you should definitely pick up this pattern and make one of your own. Here are some panning shots of it in action. I'm not sure this was the most appropriate location for this dress, but my options were a bit limited by Long Island's elaborate architecture, or the lack thereof. However, the first time I wore this dress, it was in a beautiful church. The lighting wasn't great, but it was really cool being in costume in such an elaborate environment. And the reverend was very nice. He knew about cosplay from Adam Savage's YouTube channel and was happy for the church to be used for something similar. So shout out to St. Mark's Church in Islip, you were pretty great. And before I go, I just want to say thank you to all of you guys. The response to my last pattern announcement video was just incredible, and I'm thrilled to report that it was the best-selling pattern from not just the early spring releases, but from all the patterns in the book throughout February. I was so thrilled to hear that, and I'm still giddy about it. So thank you so much for the support. If you did buy it, then I hope you are enjoying it, and if you didn't, then you should. Or you should buy this one, or both of them, because why not? 2 patterns is definitely better than 1. And I think that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. If you did, giving it a like or comment would really help me out. And if you want to see more videos, some like this, some that aren't, then subscribing would be cool too. Thanks again, and I'll talk to all of you very soon.
Once again, I'm paired alongside Yaya. That is the new design, and I may have matched my nails to the picture. I'll find it in the back. Look at it! That is so cool that they're next to each other. So this is the first one, and this is the second one, M7763. So I'm going to get a picture with this, and then we're going to try and find it in the drawers, because that's the fun part. Yay!
Good thing you're getting this all on video. It is! People love outtakes.